Hey, and welcome to the Dangerous Creatives podcast. If you're growing your photography or creative business, you're in the right place. Each week, we deliver a workshop-style solo show, expert interview, or motivating story from our community so you can tune in to find encouragement, motivation, and ideas to help the right people find you and your amazing work. I'm your host, Kristin Sweeting. I'm a photographer and coach, and my favorite thing is helping dangerous creatives just like you stand out in a world that just wants us to blend in. I'm glad you're here. Let's dive in. Well, hey everyone, and welcome back to the Dangerous Creatives podcast. I'm so excited to be here with Jimmy Lick, who is the founder of the Second Society, which is such a cool thing that you've created that lets people connect with really talented second shooters and associate shooters. And so today we are going to talk about using second shooting to build your career, what makes a good second shooter, maybe a little bit into associates too, if you want, Jimmy, and then just the importance of building a team that has your back, that you know going in is going to give the same experience to your clients. I'm so excited for all these topics. I'm passionate about them too. So I'm so glad that you're here today, Jimmy. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself more to our gang too.
I would love to. Thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome to be here. It's been awesome to be on several different podcasts and be able to talk about Second Society and second shooting. And it's kind of weird because it's not really my passion, but it's kind of becoming my passion, building a Second Society and just how much it's helped people, I think is really what I love. So yeah, I'm Jimmy Lick. I am literally just a filmmaker out here in Carlsbad, California, just outside of San Diego. I've been shooting weddings for basically 10 years now under Rora Film Co. So that's me and my wife's company. That's still our main bread and butter. We still do that full time. And then built Second Society out of a need, honestly, right after COVID, when we really needed a lead shooter, a second shooter, and a third shooter for a huge wedding from a postponement wedding that landed on the same date as another wedding that we had to shoot in Tahoe. And I was like, why isn't there an app that's built for second shooters to be found really easily? And so we bought a second home. We had a condo up in the mountains. We sold it and started Second Society. And so here we are.
My gosh, that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, you're right. That was such a need, especially during that time when people were bailing left and right from second shooting. I'm like,
Yeah.
what are we going to do?
Complete chaos. I felt like I was just juggling all these postponements and double bookings. And I was like, what is going on? Especially for me, like we're not a huge company. We're a very boutique. So we kind of serve 12 to 15 of these major big weddings a year. And so it was just like, whoa, what's going on? We went from 15 to I think we were up to 40 weddings at one point. So yeah,
Yeah.
wild times. We're not going back there.
Oh my gosh, no. I was in the same boat because I usually do a pretty small number too. And then I have a pretty big coaching mastermind. And so I was like running that and double shooting. Oh my goodness, it was crazy. We made it through. Anyways, well, let's start first maybe with what makes a good second shooter, because I think one of the things that I hear a lot of kind of back and forth about what's good to do when you're a second shooter, how much credit should you give your second shooter, how do you build a good team? I'd love to just hear your thoughts on that and what you're seeing as people are diving into the Second Society. Like, what makes a really good team member that makes you stand out as people are hiring?
I would love that. So I want to preface this with, I think this is going to be different for so many different people, right? There's just so many different types of weddings, from elopements to weddings on the East Coast to weddings in Europe to, luxury weddings and all that kind of stuff. So I'm speaking from the perspective of my own personal experience, and we are in more of the lower end luxury weddings. Right. So charging between 10 to 20,000 per wedding. And so in that space, I feel like for us, the main thing that I'm looking for on a second shooter is, number one, they absolutely know our style, are very proficient at shooting, could technically lead the wedding just like ourselves on the wedding day. And so this really is more of an associate or a lead shooter that's helping us out, and we're paying them for that. Right. So we're paying them high percentage, high dollar for second shooting, but what they're giving back to us is just that trust to be able to not only show up and crush it as far as a filmmaker goes, but also personality. So they are the same brand voice as us. Personality is the same. I can trust them to walk in a room of guys, getting ready and kind of liven it up and speak to them and not be shy, to get them in front of camera, get them to do fun things. So just giving that same Rora Film Co experience without me having to be in the room, if that makes sense.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that thought process too of it's not just how talented someone is or what their portfolio is, but are they going to be able to bring the same energy, the same kind of character to the space? I think that's so huge. And like one of the things I always come back to is being a good hang is just going to help you in any career that you want to be in. Like if people want to have you around, if they like to have you around, but also knowing your brand well enough that you can say, here is what we want in someone else that's representing our brand are these three things,
Yeah.
and being able to go from there.
That's a great idea. Like even just writing down exactly what you need on the day of and kind of picking apart your own work and saying like, what is my style? What are some things that I kind of fall back to as far as like artistry goes, and like what type of shots am I getting? And that way I can just relay that to them and say, hey, here are the must haves. From beyond that, here are things that I love that you do well, and kind of speaking into your second shooter and saying like, hey, these are things that are sticking out. Here are things that you're creative at that I kind of want to see from you too. And that's another thing that I do choose in a second shooter is someone who has a creative eye and sees things differently. It's kind of frustrating, honestly, to get back into the editing bay and see shots. And I'm like, dang, I didn't see that. Like, this is an amazing shot. And I wish I would have thought to capture it, but you did it, and like, that's why I hire you back time and time again. It's just because you have a different
Totally.
creative eye.
Yeah, yeah, totally. That's so cool. What are some like please don't do this things that second shooters should know?
Like the no-nos of second shooting.
Yeah, like the cringe, like please don't do that. And I know
Yeah.
everyone's different too, but what are some across the board things that just will help someone avoid maybe a messy situation?
Totally. Kind of in the same vein we were talking about is just I've had one shooter who was amazing and really talented and really creative, but also have kind of a big ego. And they were like, hey, I'm charging this much. And I'm like, that's kind of high, but okay, you're talented. And then they showed up on the wedding day. And again, the personality, the morale was kind of lower. Uh, they definitely kind of were hanging out every single chance they had to sit down or take a break or be on their phone. They would be on their phone. And I'd be like, dude, like go over there and grab this shot. You know what I mean? Or go to
Yeah.
cocktail and just shoot it like crazy. You know what I mean? I think for weddings specifically too, it's like, yeah, we're going to use, 5 to 10 shots of cocktail, but you never know when the next shot is somebody laughing or hugging somebody that they absolutely love, right? Like you can't anticipate that happening. And so just being ready the entire hour and constantly shooting, for me personally, I prefer you to overshoot and just be ready on standby and be on the lookout and like say, hey, where are these moments going to happen? We can position ourselves in certain ways to be able to capture those moments a little bit easier, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That would
Yeah.
be one no. I'm trying to think of some other ones. Honestly, it's just, yeah, personality. And then, making sure that you have a personality on the day of that matches the other lead shooter. I think another no would just be kind of overstepping boundaries a little bit when it comes to just direction and interacting with a couple or interacting with a planner. Um, that is one thing that like I kind of talk about if I'm working with a second shooter that I'm not normally working with, and they're more of a lead, they run their own business. It's kind of like just in them to speak a little bit more or be more vocal.
Right.
For me, there's just certain situations where I'm like, hey, just hang on the back end, because we're usually working with 2 or 3 photographers on the day of, maybe a content creator. Now you have like 6 different voices that are constantly speaking. And
Right.
we don't need that. I'm more of like, hey, less is more type of mentality. Um,
Totally. Totally. Don't overwhelm people. Don't accidentally put your foot in your mouth by saying the wrong thing.
I think it just comes with time too. Like there is a shooter that I constantly work with that I don't mind him speaking out or directing a shot. But that's come with trust, right? So that's something that has happened after shooting with me 10 times and associate shooting for me several times. It's like, dude, I trust you. Whatever you're getting right now, you're speaking up because you see something that I don't see. You've already felt the room and like we have time, the couple's relaxed, the couple's into it. So that's when you speak up and ask for, a second shot or like, hey, can we do that again?
Yeah, totally. I love some of those parameters. I was telling my husband this story. It was like the first time I ever second shot very early in my career. I didn't even think about it. I was using this is how long ago it was. I was using Flickr to back up a lot of
Oh,
my
wow.
photos. I know. I don't even think Flickr exists anymore.
I don't think so.
Yeah, like, I would put my stuff up there and be like, "Okay, the ones I really love, I'm gonna put on Flickr, and then they'll be online, and they'll be backed up or whatever." And so I had second shot, and she was really laid back, and I had never done a wedding before in my life. I had never second shot, and I uploaded a couple photos from the wedding to Flickr, thinking no one would ever see them, and it was before she had shared the photos, and, like,
Public.
someone found it. Yeah, someone found it and was like, "We like your photos." And then it became this like thing and oh my gosh, I was mortified. I did not mean to overstep anything and it just happened. And so that was my mistake is what made me change what I have my second shooters do. I'm like, no one can share images. Like we're just going to keep this
Yep.
clean.
Sometimes you just need to keep it black and white.
Yeah, exactly. I know everyone has different thoughts on that, but I'm like, "Oh, man, it can just get so messy so fast." So that was my, my second shooting mishap that
Yeah.
I never changed.
That would be tough. Yeah, for us, like specifically in Second Society, we have contracts that are built in. So when you book a shooter, we lay out all the ground rules for you, and then you can make addendums just depending on your style. So specifically when it comes to a second shooter using the shots that they get as their portfolio, you can kind of make addendums to that. We always lean on the side of like, no, you can't share anything. That's just because, we could be shooting a high-end luxury celebrity wedding one week and the next is just like a regular wedding that you could share photos with. I just go across the board, blanket statement, can't use anything. But what I found is that my second shooters have a relationship with me enough to where if this is like something that specifically they really, really want to share, they're coming to me and saying, hey, can I use this specifically for this moment or can I post it? We've already seen that you've released the whole wedding. We've seen the wedding film. It's out there. It's done. Do you mind if I use this shot on my website? You know what I mean? And that's where it's like
Right.
a case by case basis. And of course, I'm like, yeah, no problem. Just make sure you're not tagging vendors, coordinators, whatever it might be. So there's just specific guidelines that you can always lay out on a case to case basis.
I like that. I like the kind of assume privacy. And I think that's good. That's a good thing as a second shooter to think about anyways, is like assume privacy, assume you're working for the other photographer and just checking cuz yeah, the level of privacy for each wedding is so different.
Yeah. And I think if I were to say like what the culture of Second Society is really a place for all of us, to find second shooters who don't necessarily need to use that portfolio to build their business. It's really like a spot for you to get experience second shooting, get paid really well, and then also referrals from that lead shooter when they have a wedding that they can't shoot, right? And you're the one right there, you're on top of mind. So they can refer weddings to you. And that's kind of how you build your business. So it's just a different, I guess, way of finding second shooters. And really, ultimately, for me, I needed a pool of second shooters who are amazing at what they do and they just want to get paid well to work on the day of.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about those two things then, because I do think a lot of people overlook second shooting as a way to make money as a videographer or photographer. Either like, oh, that's for people who are newer,
Yeah.
or I don't want to, or I don't know, I don't get paid enough. So I want to talk about both the pay and like what is paying fairly, what's paying generously, but also like how can second shooting build your career as a videographer or photographer? Have you seen that happen for people through referrals? How can that
Mm.
be something that we think about as like, this is actually strategic to talk to me about those
Yeah,
things?
I'm going to talk about it in just a couple of different ways of thinking about it. So, number one, there's been somebody that's been through Second Society. He's booked, I think, 10 to 20 weddings. He's made over 30 grand now. I think he's up to like 40, 50 grand just in lead and second shooting. And so it started with second shooting. Then they would call him back and say, hey, can you lead this wedding? Right. And now it's into referrals. So that company that hired him to lead, they're referring him to other companies that are not on Second Society. So the web is just growing for him and the referral base is just constant. From there, because you have so much demand, you raise the supply, right? So like your cost can go up as well. And so that's one situation. For me specifically, I've gotten paid to second shoot at $2,500 for the day, and lead shoot for 6 grand, right? Like to travel and shoot weddings in different states. And so it's just the range kind of goes from, $50 an hour to whatever. I think your worth, it just depends on what you bring the value is to the company. And so if you're like a really good fit for someone, for example, if I'm shooting for another luxury company and they think that my personality fits their brand perfectly well, then your price can kind of go up because you're in high demand, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, totally. What do you find is kind of the average
Hmm.
for second shooters? Because for a long time, I felt like everyone in my city charged the exact same amount for second shooting, and it didn't really change for a long time.
Yeah.
And then it was like, this is too low. Like it still wasn't changing, but it was too low. I've raised what I pay second shooters quite a bit in the last few years. But what are you kind of finding most people are charging?
I would say most of the jobs are higher than what I would expect. And I think, which is awesome, because that's honestly what the culture is that I'm trying to set for Second Society too, is that like, I think people should be paid what they're worth, but what they're worth, like we're actually putting way more value into second shooters than we have been before. Where I think the stigma around second shooters were like they were more like assistants. They, set up the tripods and they would just get some shots for you. Whereas I'm trying to change the mentality behind second shooters because what I found is like when I invest into a second shooter who's actually a lead, they're getting way more shots for me than I ever have before with second shooters. And
Yeah.
they're elevating my brand as well. Right. So we're becoming a team. We're doing this together. The planner is seeing that the second shooter is amazing too. And so that just puts more value into your brand. And obviously she's only going to continue to reach out to you because she doesn't have that contact for your second, and so you're really investing back into your own brand at that point. And so, yeah, I think most of our jobs that are coming in are around 100 to 125 bucks an hour per second. And then leads are up to 300 and 400 at times. I wouldn't say that's average by no means. I would say it is around like the 125 mark for lead
Okay.
shooting. And I would say the low end of second shooting is around 65 bucks an hour.
Okay. Yeah. And when you say lead shooting, that's like someone has booked what they're calling an associate wedding and they're looking for someone else besides them to shoot it.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Like they won't show up to the wedding. They're asking you to show up for them.
Is that becoming more common?
I think so. I think there definitely is a need, and for the people who are, I found the sweet spot to where they're booking too many weddings that they can't show up to. They're easily outsourcing to lead shooters, and I think just because the industry as a whole, I think has changed to where cameras are cheaper, more accessible. YouTube, people are learning in YouTube University. So there's just a lot more talented wedding videographers and photographers out there that can shoot weddings. And the wedding industry is just an amazing industry to be in. And so, yeah, people can, trust that they're going to hire a lead and show up to the wedding, give a good service, and then still be able to deliver.
Yeah,
So, yeah, it's more accessible than ever before.
for sure. Both on the like creating more of a team-based business and on the finding people to be those team members.
Yeah, and I think with Second Society too, like we found there's a company on here that's I think booked 30 shooters for lead and second shooting through us this past year. And so their business has been able to grow because now you have more access to team members within seconds, right? So like now we have a platform where you can go on there, find really high quality shooters, book them, and now the whole process of sharing that the couple, hey, we have a whole team behind us ready to go at any given time. Truthfully, it's our platform. And so if they do decide to book, then they just go on our platform, book a shooter right away, sign the contract, and now they're assigned to that wedding. And so
Yeah.
we're making it a lot easier for companies to kind of grow and scale their business as well.
Outsourcing has been one of the most important things I've done as I've grown my photography business over the last 18 plus years. For a while, I had an assistant that came to my house. I still have someone that comes and does a whole bunch of things for me. It just gives me so much time back. But one of this podcast sponsors, Imagine AI, has really taken the outsourcing game up a notch and allows us to now train an AI assistant on how to edit our work for us. So we're not losing any creative control. We can tell it how to fix its edits each time that it edits for us. So it's always going in and doing a base edit for me, and I go back in and I do the finer details myself, like little retouches or things that I want changed. So I never feel like I lose creative control, but it speeds up my editing time. Even while I was traveling this last month, I edited some of my digital work with AI while I was waiting for the film to come back. And it still let me go out and travel with my family and experience the cities we were in. And I never felt like I had to stay home editing while they were out doing fun things. So make sure you check out Imagine AI. You can go to imagineai.com/podcast for a special offer. You get 1,500 free edits through the program by using our code, and click the link in the show notes or enter that URL and you'll get that offer. So hope you enjoy. Let us know how Imagine works for you. The whole building a team thing, or I've never had a lead shooter shoot for my company. It's always been me. And for me, the biggest thing holding me back, well, one is it's not quite my brand, which is totally fine, but also the risk. But it sounds like, and I would love to hear more about like how your platform is reducing risk for people when they're building that kind of thing. Like, is there vetting? How could people go in trusting that they're going to have like a good result at the end?
Sure. Yeah, I think that comes down to the individual too, like to make sure that you as a company are doing your due diligence to make sure that you have the trust, right? I think there's companies out there that have a lot less trust than others. So for example, for my company, like I'm never going to just hire a lead shooter who I've never worked with before, never met before, and just like go to the wedding, go film it, right? But there's tons of studios out there that do that. And they have internal processes, where they bring them in and teach them exactly what they need and give them shot lists and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, they're still sending out leads to go shoot it without ever meeting them in person. So for me, it's like, I'm going to bring you on. I'm going to make sure that you watch me and see how I work. I'm also watching you to see how you work. And then once I see that you are a good fit, that you have the personality and that you're actually crushing it as far as like getting the shots right and consistently doing that, then then I can trust you to go associate shoot for me. And so we've done a
Yeah.
handful of those. We've done maybe 5 to 10 weddings where we've outsourced shooters specifically because I couldn't be there, whether we were having a baby or on vacation or shooting another wedding. So we don't typically do that. But I think it is something that you can build and you can grow inside of your company. So one way that Second Society is doing, yes, we vet our shooters that come on board. I think for us, I just want to create a brand and a culture of talented and experienced wedding videographers and photographers. And so you have to show the work. Basically, you have to go through the entire onboarding process to even come onto our platform. And then they're vetted by our team. And so if you don't have the portfolio, or if you are, if you're familiar with shooting maternity or, bands, live bands or whatever, like that's not specific weddings. And so we don't know if you've had that experience yet on wedding days. And as you know, and as I think everyone knows, weddings are a whole different breed. So even though you can shoot a band and you have great portfolio work in that sense, it's way different. And we need experience on wedding days. So we're really trying to vet and make sure that all of our shooters on the platform have experience of being on wedding days and have shot weddings before in the past.
That's awesome.
And then we're currently building out a whole nother subscription model, a whole different tier, which will be called Elite. And so basically that will be referral based only and invite only. And so we're really looking for just people who have more experience in the luxury market, higher end weddings, and just more consistent experience. People that are kind of in the 5 to 10-year range, have been shooting for a while, have a lot of weddings under their belt. So these are people that you can really trust and are invited in to that tier.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
you have kind of like a rating referral like Airbnb does as well,
Yeah.
right? Where people can see the reviews and all of that. They can
Exactly. So like on your profile, you can see who you've worked with in the past. So you can basically send out invites to people that you've worked with in the past and then they approve. And so you can't just like force people on there that you've worked with. We send them an email and say, "Hey, have you actually worked with this shooter?" And then they can
Yeah.
either approve or deny that they've actually worked with you. And so just building that obviously builds a lot of trust and credibility onto your profile. And so I think that's a huge thing for people that are getting hired on our platform. You can see that they have actually worked with several other people in the past.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think this became more of a thing after COVID is people bailing on second shooting last minute or, there being a little bit less like I can trust you to show up kind of thing.
Mm,
And so I'm sure that, referral system, being able to check with people, I think that that reliability is so important if you're trying to build as a second shooter, but even if you're hoping that it will lead to referrals, like being a person that does what they say they're going to do and is trustworthy. I mean, that is so big for me, and I know is big for a lot of people, is like, if I'm referring you, I wanna know that you're gonna do what you said and that you're gonna treat people really well, you know?
100%. Yeah, I don't understand why second shooters bail at the last minute. Apparently, that's a thing and has happened often. And I don't understand what's going on with that.
Yeah,
Yeah, like you're signing up. This is your career. You know what I mean? And so your reputation's on the line. I feel like that's just like barrier to entry. You should just show up, stick to your word. That's a must.
totally, totally. I know I must be, like, a little I don't know, I must be old school or something. Because to me, like, yeah, your reputation is kind of everything, and if nothing else, I feel like people know that I'm gonna do what I say, and so it kind of blows my mind when the culture starts shifting because 'cause I'm
Yeah,
like, "I don't know, that just really doesn't make sense to me."
I don't know. I think it happens too when the second shooters find out that they have another wedding or like a wedding books with them, right? And so they're like, "Hey, I have to bail on the second shooting because I have a job coming in." And that's just a terrible mentality to have. I mean, like we have to believe that sticking to our word is way more important than taking the one-off wedding that's coming in, right? And so for me, when I'm booking second shooting gigs, I'm usually booking them way out in advance, but I'm also charging what I'm worth for that day of, right? And you're also putting that into what you're charging. And so if I'm going to hold a date for you for 9 months, I'm betting on the fact that I'm not going to book a wedding. But even if I were to book a wedding, it's like I know I'm getting paid well for that day. And so
Totally.
that should just be your mentality too. If you're holding that date for somebody for so long, like obviously you should be charging more, or just don't tell them that you can shoot it and wait until the last minute.
Yeah, for sure. I just think everyone should be excited about what they're agreeing to, otherwise, maybe something needs to shift in the agreement.
Yeah, and I think that was another thing that I felt early on when I was hiring second shooters was I was hiring people who were doing their other thing, right? Like so they shoot weddings on the side. They're trying to go after I'll give you one example, go after their creative commercial side of things, right? And so they would say, "Yeah, I can shoot that for, $50 an hour." And I'd be like, "Great, you're good at that." But then it would come down to it and weeks before, they're like, "Hey, I have this other job that I have to commit to. So sorry, I can't make it." And I'm like, that's not a good enough excuse. Like I have a wedding to shoot. Like you have to show up. So after that, it's like, zero tolerance policy. It's like I'm not hiring you ever again. And you're burning that bridge. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
if you keep doing that in life, you're just gonna burn all the bridges and you'll have nowhere to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, the people that I've just been hiring are people who I found over and over again commit, good on their word. I'm going to pay you well. I'm actually paying you more than I even say that I'm going to pay you, knowing that I'm just like being generous and giving above and beyond because I think that goes a long way too. And making it really fun to work with me on the day of is also a plus. And just know that they'll keep coming back.
I agree with you so much. For me personally too, as I've shifted into these bigger weddings where we have 4 people, we have 3 people that are photographing it, having a team, like you said, where they're all lead shooters, where I know they can photograph a part of the day that I can't physically be there. The wedding's too big. There's too much going on. It really has shifted even my own mindset as a wedding photographer from like I'm the only storyteller here to like I'm developing a team that's really going to serve my clients well.
Yeah.
And I still like both of those. Like I like it when I get to do a wedding all by myself, but I found a lot of fulfillment in being a team leader and letting go of control a little bit and like empowering other people to also capture art through the day. And that's been like really cool too. If there's someone listening that's like, I'm not hiring this caliber of second shooter yet, like but you might in a year or two, and this might be something that you need as far as like pulling together a big team. It can be really, really cool and really cool for your own growth too.
Totally. Yeah, I think just another thing that I've kind of found is like even investing in people who are 3, 5 steps ahead of you in your career. Like I remember paying $500 to $1,000 for mentorship sessions like on a Zoom call. And I'm like, I could have paid a shooter $1,000 and gotten an all day experience and watched them second shoot for me and been like, hey, how about you lead this wedding, even though it's my wedding? Like they're willing to do it. So they show up. And so, like, the investment in hiring a second shooter who's like years above you is a great like life hack, I think, because you get to see them work on a wedding day. You get to see their personality. You get to see, things that they're saying. You get to see how they might be directing during portraits. And so hire them as like a mentorship basically and say like, hey, I want to see how you direct. I want to see what you would do during the first look or how you would set up this shot. And you get to see it in person visually and be able to take that home. And I feel like for me, like I'm a visual learner. So like learning through a Zoom call is way different than watching somebody for 8, 10 hours on a wedding day.
Yeah.
It's basically the same price. So
That is a really good thought, viewing that as learning. I feel that way about hiring photographers to photograph my family or whatever. I'm
mm,
like, that's education, you
yep.
know? I get to see someone do it differently or even second shooting. Earlier on in my career, I learned so much from me second shooting or assisting people and watching how they work and like always learned something where I'm like, oh, you do this differently than I do. And I
Yeah.
think it can be such a valuable experience.
It is really cool. And I've watched like a lot of higher end or luxury photographers build teams specifically for certain things, which is really, really cool that they kind of put their ego aside and say like, hey, I'm hiring this person for details. You know what I mean? Or I'm hiring this person for cocktail and any type of guest relations. And I was like, wow, that's like really broken down. Like, all I do is just film weddings, but it's like, what if I built a team specifically for these like different types of events, take all the collections together and then deliver this one beautiful product that is a product of mastery, you know what I mean? From 5 different photographers. I think that's super cool. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's just really cool. Just like Rolex or something like the craftsmanship that goes into building this product is so much more than just a Timex watch that you buy off like the shelf of Walmart or whatever. So it's really cool to kind of think of it through that lens as well.
I love that too. And I love being able to see people for their strengths. I think it takes a certain amount of like setting aside your own ego too
Hmm.
to recognize one, what you do really well, but two, what you don't do as well. A lot of people are kind of unwilling to recognize those things and be like, I'm really quiet. I'm not as good with guest relations, or I'm not as good with the details. Hiring people to
To fill it.
fill those
Yeah.
gaps. Yeah.
Isn't that wild? Like one person who does it really well is Nirav Patel. Like I've watched him work. I've kind of chatted with him a few times, and that's one thing he does is like he specifically hires second shooters or really honestly lead shooters who are just amazing at what they do at these specific moments. And honestly, like he's a very quiet person. He'll tell you this as well. But you hire other people to kind of fill in those gaps or just like they're a little bit more bubbly. And now you're creating this like whole broad experience that you really want to package together is just like really cool.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a certain level of maturity to do that, but I think you're going to deliver something so much higher quality if you're talking about like delivering more value for someone. Jimmy, tell me like what do you do really well? And what thing are you like, I don't do this as well? And so, like, which thing would you maybe outsource? Like, what are those for you?
So I think like one thing that I really love pouring into is like just story and audio. So like I'm a musician by trade and I'm like very empathetic. So I do love a good emotional moment on the day of, and I love trying to capture those as best I possibly can. I will say like aesthetics, not so much. Details. I don't care about flowers that much.
You're like quietly
Yeah.
saying it.
I know it's like so important and I will get them and I love them for other people who love them. Uh, so like shooting details and stuff like that, it's just like that's not my bread and butter, I wouldn't say. I love trying to get into a room. I love trying to make a moment happen and feel authentic and get people into like a vulnerable state, if that makes sense. So I will, like, I'll approach like a grandmother or I'll approach a mom and just like, hey, how are you feeling right now? You know what I mean? And really try to just draw out emotion. That's like perfect for the film. I think honestly, the biggest thing that I'm best at is getting in the post production side of things and really trying to create a story on the
Yeah.
back end. So yeah, I think there's better filmmakers out there. I watch it all the time. It's like really depressing, but you just see like, man, you're so good at capturing those moments. And it feels like some people are just like, they have like 8 hands and they're getting shots. And I'm like, how are you getting all that during cocktail hour? Yeah. So I think I'm pushing into that realm too, like where the next 3 weddings that I have coming up, I'm hiring 3 shooters where I only ever did 2. And so just allowing me to have a little bit more space. Number one, to be with the couple a little bit more rather than setting up tripods or running bags from here to there. Every time I'm running a bag or setting up a tripod, I know I'm missing moments.
Yeah.
And there's some of the most important, which is like guests coming into ceremony and they're seeing all their friends and family for the first time and they're hugging it out. You know what I mean? Or the couple is having a moment over there right before ceremony starts. And you're like, gosh, I could have been all these other places. So that I am really trying to dive into that a little bit more and just be more present on the day of. Number one, with the couple, but also with the guests and trying to make those moments happen. And so just really hiring out and investing into assistants, investing into second and third shooters to kind of just like help out on logistics part of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I'm right there with you with similar, like, I feel like my strength is being with the couple, the relationships, and helping people feel like beautiful through the whole day. And yeah, there's so many more talented photographers than me, but I feel like it's the dynamic and the relationship that's kind of my zone of genius. And so being able to say what's going to free me up to do that, kind of like what you're saying with your team too, of who could carry the bag or move the things or be coordinating with the rest of my team so that I can be there to do what I really do best.
Yeah.
I think that's just such a cool thing.
One thing I've learned is just like as I'm kind of pushing into that more luxury market, it's like the couples are really valuing experience way more than the product, right? And so that's just what I've been feeling lately. And so the more that I dive into the experience, even like pre-wedding, right? Like on the call, diving into like, hey, how do you want your wedding day to feel? How do you want your film to feel when you watch back at it, right? Rather than, hey, we offer an 8 to 10 minute highlight film and we do ceremony
Right.
film and a toast film. It's like they care about what the experience is going to be like working with you. And so if I can give them a
100%.
best experience, the best experience is when I'm with them the most and we have a team set out to just crush what we need to get done. But yeah, just making that whole experience throughout the entire wedding weekend, because usually we're filming 3 or 4 or 5 days from some of these weddings. And so, yeah, you're with them all the time, right? So you really want to make sure that they're just having a blast.
100%. Yeah, before they see 1 second of film or 1 photo, they should already be like, "That was the best. You guys did the best," you know?
It's so awesome when guests will come up to me and be like, you guys are so good. And I'm like, you haven't seen anything. It's the best compliment. I love it. Yeah.
Best compliment. Well, tell us a little bit more about Second Society, how people can check y'all out.
Yeah. So secondsociety.io is our website. It's a platform where you can sign up as a lead or second shooter. We have, I think, over 3,000, almost 3,500 shooters on there now and companies. And so you can sign up as a shooter, sign up as a company, or sign up as both. And basically, it's just a boutique platform of experience wedding photographers and videographers. And basically we have it all done for you. So you can find a shooter through our database, or you can post a job on our job board. And basically we automatically send those to people who, number one, are available. Number two, match with the type of wedding that you're shooting, even the rate that you're putting down. And we send that out to people's emails. They can apply to those jobs. Most people are seeing, several people apply within hours of posting a job. Some people are finding 14 to 15 applicants come through and are able to book a second shooter that same day. So it's been really cool. Yeah, it kind of just started out as this thing that I needed, and it has become this global brand that's kind of popping off, and it's been really cool. And the next thing that we're trying to implement is just the whole process of hiring a second shooter, from finding them to booking them and paying them online. That is just another thing that I think is a pain point for a lot of people. You get done shooting a wedding day and you're like, I think they're going to pay me, we'll see. And then tomorrow comes and you don't get anything. And then a couple days later, you're like, when do I reach out? When do I remind them that I haven't got paid yet? Like, hey, so great working with you. Like, it's just like that awkward conversation. And we've all done it. Even I have forgotten sometimes to pay my second shooter. And it's like, yeah, it just needs to happen, right? Like, we need to be able to pay a platform and just it goes out the next day. And obviously we need to make sure that the second shooter shows up and gets, a 5-star review and just had a great experience. And then obviously you should be paid the following day. And so we're kind of working on that as well right now.
I love that. That's awesome. Well, Jimmy, thanks for being on the Dangerous Creatives podcast. We're excited for people to connect with y'all more and to see what all it grows into.
Yeah.
So thanks for your time and for talking about this. I think it's just such an important topic.
Of course. Appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Dangerous Creatives podcast. Check out dangerschool.com to join our community and support the show. Thanks to our team, Jen Madigan Creative, for producing, and to Fire Choir for our intro music. Tune in again next time, and thanks for your support.